I remember looking into it, asking for Psychro and whatnot. And they said they give it to some streamers sometimes, even if they're not partnered. So I'll look into it again for an inquiry. Um, but I think I'm just too small time. It's 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 not if while you're on your phone, it's gonna continue happening. Sorry to tell you. Yeah, it's the phone's throttle because they can only handle so much because of their network cards. They're just technology has not increased to that point. And browsing, yeah, it can browse the web. It's streaming is a whole nother amount of taxing on your computer. It's so much. I think it goes, yeah, liquid heat exchangers. And then Stirling generators, which I actually have to bust up the... Oh, shit. Oh, crap. Well, that happened. Can I have some cobble, please? Because apparently I don't have blocks on hand. That's gonna happen. No, I mean, I could play Hearthstone on my, I thought I requested a stack. There it is. I could play Hearthstone on it, on my phone. That's what I was doing yesterday in between waiting for downloads and stuff. I think I just destroyed my lava source. I did. Well, that sucks. Um, okay then. Whoops. Uh, I need another bucket of lava, like, super duper quickly. Can I steal... Oh, wait a minute. Derp. There you go. Bucket of lava. Problem served. And you should be reproducing. Yeah, you are. Okay. So all of it, like, all hope is not lost and stuff like that. When it comes to mobile, it's just a lot of stuff are still technologically hindered by it. And the thing is though, humans are actually a lot smarter than people give them credit for. If you look online, and I thought this was fascinating, and I think you guys talking about human ingenuity and waiting for technology to catch up to what we actually have an understanding for. If you look online, in 1992, there was, I believe it was 1992. Yeah, I'm going to go with 1992. I may be off a little bit on the dates, but I know it's in there in the 90s. Um, a mathematician, his name escapes me, actually did a a mathematical journal that is now that is accepted by the community for being mathematically correct and everything for um, for being able to mathematically prove the I wouldn't say the abilities that warp drives are possible. That it is you can make one, and that he mathematically proved how a warp drive would work, and that you can condense space and then shoot it out the back and do a warp bubble and so forth and so on. And it's proven. Warp drives are proven. How's that for your mind being blown? That you can go online today and look up the math and the physics of how a warp drive works. The fact that we as humans cannot make one, yeah, yeah, it's mathematically proven that it can be done. It's just we as humans are waiting for our technology to improve to a point where we can actually implement the things that we understand and can do. That's why technology is developing at such a rapid pace, because if you look at the science community, they're like, okay, we proved math, we've proved warp drives. Let's get the technology up to the point so we can actually do it because I want to go to space. Well, Ben Rich, director of Lockhart, I'm going to stick that into my brain and keep it. Because I love that stuff. That stuff, when they say, what do you read? I don't read books. I read journals on what the science community is doing. It's so fascinating of what they have proven, and they're like, just like, crap, if we only had that technology. I was missing something, and then now I'm like completely derping up glass fiber cables. Yeah. I'm totally in the zone of like just talking. It's See, that's the thing. If you look up warp drive theory, it's not about speed. It's actually a problem with pressure. That's the problem with warp drives. It's too much pressure for our technology. It's like we don't have the technology to build one because I can't remember the reasons why. Like I said, a little bit derpy right now, but um, besides that point of not having the technology to build one, we the amount of pressure on the bubble, the warp bubble in the ship, we don't have. We haven't invented like steel was like the last invention when it comes to metallurgy and formation of a hard object that can handle pressure. If you really think about it, um, like we've created heat shields and stuff like that, but they burn off and whatnot. Um, So besides the technology of actually making the warp drive but we don't have the spaceship like uh, to handle the pressure of it all. Oh, come on. Because when you read about the theory of like warp drives and stuff, you'll understand that like it's essentially just what warp drive does. It doesn't really move in in the I guess conventional sense. What it does is it it takes the amount of space in front of us and condenses it together, like legitimately the fabric of time and space. It condenses it in front of us. Um, Essentially to like where you if you make a graph and you're like, okay, well, I want to emit like on the x-axis 0 to 400, so you put a squiggly line saying that's omitted. Well, that's essentially what it does. It takes all that space and it makes it a small squiggly line, and then it shoves it underneath the spaceship and then blows it out the back. And when it blows it out the back, it re-expands to its normal size. Oh, yeah, I'm a huge quantum physics fan. Like, I do not have the ability to do the math. Essentially I have enough mathematical prowess to handle. Okay, I think we're having problems retrieving this liquid. Yeah, I don't think it can keep up um, with that one retrieval node. I have enough mathematical prowess to understand it, but to actually calculate stuff like that, it's that's where it goes over my head because I would just derp up way too hard. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. I think I need another retrieval node. I think it's a bit much now. Probably it's one retrieval node for all of these. Yeah, I bet we're having problems. Yeah, okay, so it's now a retrieval node thing. Yeah, for power generation, that is true. That fusion reactors. Um, okay, so traveling space. There is an error in the equations, and we have to figure it out. And now know how to travel to the stars. It won't take a lifetime to do it. It is time to end all. Well, that statement is now starting to become untrue because there are a lot of private sector advancements in the past few years. Obviously, space travel takes a lot of time in preparation, even if you have government setups and stuff like that, like to set up the infrastructure and basically the infrastructure is currently in production for the private sector to use in space. Like there's a lot of private sector rocketry that's sending out solar farm or solar sails and stuff like that as well. So like private sector technology, and there's also some um, infrastructure being set up right now in the private sector for commercial space travel. If people want to go, into space, do a quick orbit around the Earth and then come back down. Obviously, it's super duper expensive, which is part of the problem. Currently, that once again we're waiting for technology to catch up so that expenses go down. Just like when the 980 graphics card for the GTX just came out. So now, no, not the 980, the 1080. So now the 980 is, instead of being top of the line 600 and something dollars, it's going to drop down in price and so forth and so on. So we have classified unit Bitanium that surpasses anything publicly available. All points in space and time are connected. You don't need math. You need observation and deduction, reasoning, logic, and critical thinking. Parlor tricks, old technology, 40s and 50s. Yes, I know that. Yeah, the whole parlor tricks of Yes, but traveling at the speed of light, getting that solar sail to travel at the speed of light is using conventional thinking of travel and movement rather than in theory warp drives, where warp drive travels essentially through time. Like instead of traveling at the rate of acceleration of like in theory miles per hour, like light travels in miles per hour in through time. Warp drives just their form of movement is just time, not using speed as the speed and acceleration as the conventional thought of movement in relation to time. It's so hard to explain. God, retrieval nodes. Yeah, retrieval. Sorry, I'm I'm like all into what we're talking about right now. That today's yeah. Yeah, like if you're thinking like that in theory is great for thinking when like in a solar system, that should take care of a lot of stuff.